when people come in from very different places with very different cultures, in large quantity, they don't have the motivation to assimilate.
Yeah.
Right? They have a quorum.
Why would they assimilate? They've got all their friends who speak their language.
It's hard to assimilate. It's a lot of effort, and it means changing the way you do things, the way you think. It means learning another language often, and kind of conceding that you're in someone else's territory and you need to adapt to their way of doing things and not get them to adapt to you. It's one of the big problems with the Muslim community in Britain. Is I get there seems to be a pervasive impression that the mountain comes to Muhammad.
Yeah, right.
So, I think that when you create an expectation that immigrants assimilate, that is making a big demand. And I think it's a demand that we need to make in order to continue to have coherent countries. But when you're in a community large enough that you can go to the local shops and they all speak your language and they're all from Iraq or whatever.
Pakistan.
You don't need to make that effort. You can just hang out with your friends, and that's happening all over the United States. I mean, it's becoming much more atomized.
I've seen it, having lived abroad with other English people, that we just gather. Why wouldn't we? We gather together, we play football together, we do all our things together. But I made a big effort to learn languages and all those things. You lived in Nairobi, Bangkok, Belfast, among other places. Do you think that has given you a wider understanding? Would you recommend people who live abroad to be able to come back, if they're able to, of course, and come back and sort of see their country in a different light?
I mean, I'm a big advocate of travel. I've lived a number of different places. I've lived most of my adult life outside the United States, though I do continue to go back. Never pretend not to be an American. Been in Britain the better part of 37 years. If I didn't like it, I would have gone home by now. To what degree it's given me a better perspective on my own country, I think that's a little up for grabs. Not being there at certain times probably makes me more ignorant, and I keep a little less of a finger on the pulse because I'm not always attuned to changes in the way people think or talk. And it's not so much of having a better perspective on my own country as feeling in a very tangible, visceral way that there are other countries, right? I never quite believe in any country I haven't been to, right? You know what that's like. And suddenly, if you've been to Estonia, suddenly Estonia is a real place.
I don't believe you.
And no, you haven't been there.
No.
And I can call up pictures in my own experience rather than looking at a book or seeing something on a news report.
For me, it was a case of, like, in Argentina, for example, and I the reason I ask is because I do feel like it is something to go abroad and see how they run their country. So, for example, in Argentina, where they still make jokes about people from different races. Now, there are problems with racism there, of course, but they're able to laugh at themselves a little bit. Where they've had far left in a way that has exceeded anything we've had in the States or the UK, and they know how bad it can get, as with the far right in Argentina. So those kinds of extremes, and then you come back to the UK and you've got people saying there's a million different kinds of sects and welcoming people who don't like our culture. It feels utterly ridiculous. It's absurd compared to the rest of the world.
I think the amount of travel I've done and the extent to which I have lived outside my country of birth influences my interest in immigration as an issue, but not in the way that you might think, as to be simply sympathetic with the immigrant experience. I mean, I am an immigrant, but I follow the rules, which are quite onerous. paid all the all the fees, went through all the bureaucracy, and maybe more importantly, always knew I was a foreigner and never pretended anything else. Always knew that it was up to me to fit in, to respect the distinction between me, who was not born in Britain, let's just keep it to Britain, that this was someone else's country. And it was up to me to learn how things are done here. And I did. And I've always been glad. I mean, one of the things that is comfortable to me about living in Britain is that I have made an effort, and I've been very involved in the politics. I've learned something about how the government is structured here and is function or fails to function. I've assimilated, right? Now, obviously, since I speak English of a kind, that was easier because I didn't have that big language barrier. But I feel that I have done my part in going far more than halfway. And yet I still appreciate the fact this is not my country. And I honestly believe that even if I did go to that extra trouble, which I never did, of becoming a citizen, it still wouldn't be my country in the same way as it is someone's country who was born here. And that whole package together, put together with the fact that when I go back to New York, that every year it is more dominated by people who were not born there and often don't speak English and are not assimilating. I feel a little cheated because I've been the good immigrant over here, and then what should be my country, my territory, is being encroached upon by people who are not making that effort.
Well, a lot of immigrants to this country, like yourself, is it like yourself? It's like you, isn't it? Not like yourself.
That's correct.
Like you.
That's an interesting misusage. It's a commonplace misusage because it's pretentious.
Adding the self.
Yeah, it sounds loftier.
They all say it on these reality shows. It drives me mad. And what about yourself? Are you and you know?
Yes.
I was thinking of voting for yourself, and I'm like, what? Yeah. No, it's you. Just vote, and it's less direct.
Yeah.
Yourself is less direct. You is just that's that booming sound.
It sounds more aggressive when you just say you.
That's what David Baddiel says about Jew as well. Jews tend to call themselves, I'm Jewish. They won't say I'm a Jew because it's got that ooh sound in it. Which
he's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
I always use the word Jew with this infinitesimal hesitation. It's like, I'm not saying anything pejorative, am I? Because it has been used pejoratively so pervasively.
Historically, plus
it is partly a sound.
The sounds. Yeah. But okay, so people like you, immigrants who have come who love this country and want to adapt, and they're so disappointed with, I suppose, other immigrants who have made it not the UK that they wanted to come to. Also,
I think this is very similar in both the US and the UK, that there's a contingent of immigrants who are disappointed, as you say, because they want to move to America or to England as they conceived of it, which is not full of other immigrants, right?
But it works if everybody tries to fit into whatever it is that America or the UK is. If everybody does that, then if all the immigrants come over and do that, then all the immigrants will be happy because, okay, we've all moved over together, but we're adapting to what we believe Britain is.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
They don't. Well, it doesn't happen, unfortunately. I mean, with people who are here or in the States in particular illegally, I mean, when I was in Argentina, I had a friend of mine said to me recently about that, because I wasn't always entirely legal there. It was like one of those tourist visas. I had to leave the country every 89 days and come back for 6 years. And there were issues. I mean, it wasn't. But someone said, "What if they'd come and taken you and said, listen, you got to go?" And I said, "Well, I'd understand because it's the country's rules and their
Yes.
laws. And if they decided I can't, I would fight to stay. Of course I would. I would do everything I could. I was trying all the time to get that visa to stay longer. But that's how their country functions. Who am I to go over and say, you have to have me in your country? It's bonkers."
The left, as we know, believes that enforcing your borders is racist and that any kind of deportation is an outrage. And yet, if they go to a bunch of any other country, if you go to countries in Africa, for example, they are very strict about visas. If they require a visa and you don't have one, you're out. They have their own illegal immigration problems.
Yeah.
This is not just, it's not only the West that has borders and has rules about getting into the country, and if you don't follow those rules, they'll kick you out. In fact, it's especially the West that doesn't kick you out.